I'm Jen Newton, registered dietitian at the Skylights Wellness Center. We're in the kitchen today going to be making a whole wheat Irish soda bread. So what's unique about this type of bread is that it uses baking soda and buttermilk for the leavening of the bread instead of yeast. So this is a method of making bread that was not invented by, or not invented in, but was popularized in Ireland and could be just a very quick and easy way of making the bread. In the United States, an Irish soda bread typically has been modified a little bit to add a little bit of butter and a little bit of sugar to the recipe itself, but we're going to be making a more traditional Irish soda bread today. And so we are going to be utilizing whole wheat flour, white flour, baking soda, baking soda, our salt, and then we are also going to be using that buttermilk as well. So we are going to start by doing three things. First, we're going to make sure we preheat our oven to 450 degrees. We're going to get our pan prepared, and that means we're going to lightly coat it with oil, and then just put a light dusting of flour on it in preparation for us putting our bread on there. And then we're going to be combining all of our dry ingredients, which is that whole wheat flour, the white flour, the salt, and the baking soda. So we're going to do that, we'll come back, and then we'll go to the next step. Our oven is preheated to 450 degrees. We have prepared our pan that we're going to be using for baking our bread, and we've combined all of our dry ingredients. Now we want to make sure we're not just putting them all in the bowl, but we want to mix them together. So I used a whisk to combine them, and then I just created this well in the center of it where I'm going to pour my liquid. And in this case, the only liquid that I'm using is the buttermilk. So it takes 2 1/4 cups of buttermilk. This only holds 2 cups, so I'm going to add that in first, and then measure out another 1/4 cup. While I'm doing that though, I do want to mention, you do want to make sure that your baking soda is still active. Sometimes we get some of these ingredients that have been sitting in the back of our cupboard for a while, so we just want to make sure that it's still active, and we can do that by taking a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and putting it in a cup and mixing it with about 2 teaspoons of vinegar, and we just want to make sure that it bubbles. If it doesn't bubble, then that means our baking soda has gone bad. It's no longer going to be a leavening agent for us, and so we should buy some more. With our dry ingredients, we also have options of doing various additives. Flaxseed is one that we could add into the bread itself. We could also use something like oat bran or wheat germ. They're entirely optional. Some people prefer to put them on the outside of the bread, so they toast a little bit during the cooking process and just give it a nice nutty flavor. Now I'm going to mix this together. I want to just do some gentle circles around. I want to avoid mixing it too much, so we want to mix it just enough to get all of our ingredients combined, but we don't want to overmix it or it can make our bread tough. So this is not going to necessarily look like a traditional dough that we would if we were making a yeast bread. It's going to look a little more wet, and that's just fine. We just want to make sure all of our dough is getting, or all of our flour is getting mixed in there. If we need to add a little bit more flour, we should do that if it looks too wet. If we need to add a little bit more liquid, we can do that as well. But this actually looks like it's coming together very nicely. So at this point, I'm going to take it and I'm going to turn it out onto a floured surface, which I'm about ready to flour. Just so I can get it shaped nicely before I transfer it over to my baking pan. And you can choose, like I do, we'll just use our fingers for this. So you can expect to get dough all over your fingers, and that's okay. Okay, so at this point, we're just going to shape it lightly. We're going to just put a little flour over the top of it, kind of keep our fingers from sticking too much to it. And we are literally going to be shaping this just into a little bit of a circle. We want it about 2 inches thick. We'll turn it over. We'll get, just to make sure we got a little flour on that side as well, and then we're going to transfer it onto our pan. So we transferred our ready to go into the oven dough onto our baking pan, and we're just going to score the top of it to create a nice design in it while it cooks. So I'm just using a paring knife, and I'm just going to score it all sides and just make kind of your traditional marks in the dough, just pairing it once in each corner, and then, like I said, there's a kind of a cross or a line going vertical and horizontal across this as well. So from here, we're going to put it into the oven that's been preheated to 450. We're going to bake it for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to turn our oven down to 400 degrees and bake it for about another 30 to 35 minutes. So we'll get started with that, and then we'll come back and see what it turns out. So we cooked our bread in the oven at 450 degrees for 20 minutes. Then without taking it out of the oven, we just turned the temperature down to 400 degrees and cooked it for another 30 minutes. And this is our final product. Now you know your bread is done because it's a nice golden brown. And also if you tap on the bottom of it, it sounds kind of hollow. And if that's not enough for you, still not quite sure if it's done or not, you can use an instant read thermometer and you can put it into the center of the bread and it should read 200 degrees, which ours did as well. So this is a quick and easy way of making some homemade bread, and it's really delicious. Can go good with breakfast or just as a side dish with going along with dinner or a nice salad. But it's whole wheat, and like I said, this is uses the baking soda and buttermilk combination for leavening instead of yeast. Quick and easy. You can do it. Give it a try.